Да, все.
Так, сейчас одну секунду я открою презентацию, потому что мне пришлось перезагрузить компьютер, и, соответственно, презентация закрылась. Сейчас прям, извините.
Угу. Так, мы уже в эфире постепенно, мы подключаемся.
Да. Так. Угу. Так,
вот я вижу вас.
Угу. Так, у меня презентация открылась.
Так, коллеги Александра и Екатерина, я вас вижу, вы есть на YouTube.
Угу. Прекрасно. Вы мне скажите, когда можно будет тогда начать?
Пожалуйста.
Так, давайте я попробую сначала показать свою презентацию. Угу. Так, скажите, пожалуйста, видно презентацию? Меня слышно? Все хорошо?
Да, все видно, слышно.
Технических проблем нет. Тогда мы можем начинать?
Да.
Okay, so dear friends, dear colleagues, dear students who learn Russian language, I welcome you on our first webinar that is dedicated to the topic Understanding Russia. And this webinar is made by State Petersburg University and like Center of Testing Center and the publishing company Zlatoust. And we are really welcome you here. We really appreciate your interest towards Russian language, Russian culture. And I hope this webinar and our next meetings will help you to understand Russia better. Today, I will tell you some words about Russia. My name is Ekaterina. I'm the Russian language teacher, and I will really be happy if my webinar will be very useful for you. So our topic for today's first webinar would be Russian cities. Where and how do people live? Let's start. So, of course, any country we can like name unique. Every country is unique, and we can learn for a long time about culture of every country, a lot of facts, a lot of special features. So what we can very shortly say about Russia? Like, first of all, Russia is a very multinational country. Russian people, like Russian nation, is only about 81% from the whole population. And in the whole Russia, there live people of 200 different nationalities. In Russia, 277 languages and dialects are used, and all of them are very different from each other. Also, in Russia, you can find 4 main religions, like the whole religions of the world you can meet in Russia. And on the web, like on the slide, you can see the photos of like Catholic cathedrals, of Orthodox cathedral, of Islam, Buddhism, and Jewish places. And all of them you can find in Russia. And here, this particular one you can find in St. Petersburg. So what unites all these nationalities, all these people in one country? Of course, this is Russian language. All people speak Russian and understand each other. So let me change the slide for you. Yeah. Also, once we talk about Russia, we need to say that Russia is a very big country. Actually, it's the biggest country in the world. So this is about 4,000 kilometers from the north to the south. Let me change the slide. And about 10,000 kilometers. Yeah. Also, once we talk about Russia, we need to say that Russia is a very big country. Actually, it's the biggest country in the world. Could you please switch off your microphone? So this is about... Okay, thank you. So let's continue. Yeah, so this is a really, really huge country, as you can see. So if you go from, for example, Moscow to Vladivostok by train, it will take you about 6 days, 3 hours, 14 minutes. Just imagine. And if you will travel by plane from the same cities, from Moscow to the Vladivostok, it will take about 8 hours and 15 minutes. Really, really long journey. And the most famous a way to travel through all Russia is, let's have a look at the next slide. Just a second. Okay, I will switch on the slides again. Oh, sorry for a small pause. Okay. So I will share my screen again. Okay, here it is. So let's continue from the next slide. So yes, I was telling you that one of the most famous way to travel through all Russia is Trans-Siberian Railway. It's one of the most famous way how you can travel through all Russia, and people usually buy tickets for this trip, not because it's very fast, but because it's really, really unique. So it's the longest railway in the whole world. So you can see on the slide, this is about 9,288 kilometers. It will take you around 7 days to travel by train through all country, through all Russia. And of course, this trip attracts not only Russian people, but a lot of tourists. This would be a really, really interesting experience. We should also say that railway and to trains, it's a very common way to travel around Russia. Because if you usually travel with a lot of luggage, you have a lot of bags, and you carry all food that, for example, your grandmother gave to you. So this is really convenient to choose train. Also, train is less expensive. It is more cheap than a plane. So also what we can say about traveling by train. Russian trains, it's a really, really comfortable way to travel around Russia. And so here on the slide, you can see a typical Russian train with a typical compartment carriage and with a typical second-class carriage. And also there is a typical Russian view. You know, if you travel by train, the only thing you can see from the window, it's a lot of forest, a lot of a really big land. And of course, there's one of the most famous tradition in the Russian trip, in the Russian train, is to drink tea from the special cup holder. You can see it on the photo too. Also, the company that deals with the trains in Russia, this is Russian Railway, we call it RZD. You can see the logo on the slide. So let's talk about famous Russian cities. One of the most famous Russian city, of course, it's the capital of Russia. It's Moscow. The city was founded very long time ago in 1147 years. And this is, of course, the heart of Russia. This is the most big city. Population of the city is about 13 millions of people. And Moscow is the largest city in whole Russia. In Moscow, you can find river. We call it Moscow River. And the city, of course, attracts a lot of tourists. So a lot of tourists come from to Moscow from different countries to see the heart of all Russia. Also, you can find 4 airports and 9 railway stations. The Kremlin, it's the place where the government of Russian Federation is. Here are some very famous places you can find in Moscow. Please look at them. If you came to Moscow, if you come to Moscow, not if, let's say when you come to Moscow, you will definitely see the Kremlin, the Red Square. You will definitely see big theater in the center of the Moscow, just next to the Red Square. You also see Moscow State University. It is called Lomonosov Moscow State University, one of the biggest and famous Russian university. And of course, Moscow is not only ancient, but also modern city. You will find Moscow city with a lot of offices, because Moscow is also the center of business. It's not only the historical center of Russia, but the place where a lot of companies, foreign companies and Russian companies are located. Well, the next city that we need to tell a lot, to say a lot of things about the city is, of course, St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is called the northern or cultural capital of all Russia. This is a cultural center of all Russia, and also it's a science center. This city is not so old as Moscow, but it is very unique with its architecture and beautiful views. And one of the, of course, also you can see that in St. Petersburg, there is a river. It is Neva River, 45 universities. And one of the most famous is, of course, St. Petersburg State University is the oldest one and the most popular in whole Russia. But what we need to say about St. Petersburg is that it is famous, first of all, because of the White Nights. So thanks to its unique geographical location, there are some places, some months in the whole year when you can come, and at night it would be as light as a daytime. So it would be, for example, 3 a.m., 2 a.m., but you can walk in the city like in daytime. We call it White Nights. So it's really great time to spend in St. Petersburg. So if you travel to St. Petersburg, please choose this particular period when you can see White Nights. Even people from Moscow usually travel to St. Petersburg because I think it's the capital of all touristic places. In St. Petersburg, you can find Hermitage. Hermitage is the biggest museum in the world, and there are some St. Isaac's cathedrals, a lot of cathedrals you can find there. Also, you can see on the slide State St. Petersburg University and River Neva. Let's look what other beautiful cities you can find in Russia. So we also have Novosibirsk. It's a great Russian city where you can find Akademgorodok. Akademgorodok is one of the biggest center of science and education. There are also industry like metallurgy, oil processing, machinery, electronics, pharmacology. So there you can find everything. Here you can see this Akademgorodok for the science and Novosibirsky railway station. Nizhny Novgorod. Nizhny Novgorod, the city that was founded in 1221st year, and it's also a big population. You also can find River Volga and Oka, 50 universities, industry, tourism. Actually, the most interesting about Nizhny Novgorod that a lot of people come there to travel on the river Volga. And here you will see the pictures of Nizhny Novgorod and the travel by the boat. Also, Tyumen is a famous city where you can find, of course, also River Tura, six very big universities, a lot of industry, agriculture. And here you can see the photos of Tyumen. Krasnoyarsk is another one very interesting city you can visit. It's the capital of Siberia, by the way. I think all of you heard about this very, very cold part of Russia. So Krasnoyarsk, you can see on the slides. Kazan is another one famous city, and it was founded in 1005 years old. It's a really, really ancient one. Also, there is a river Volga, and there are lots of universities. Here it is. You can see the photos of Kazan. And finally, Vladivostok. Vladivostok is a far east. It's located just on the most east part of Russia. I already told you about how to travel from Moscow to Vladivostok. And it is the last city of the Trans-Siberia Railway. It is also the largest port in the Far East, and it's also the main base of Pacific Fleet. So I showed you some famous Russian cities. So what is the big city in Russia? A big city in Russia, it's when you can find more than 1 million people. It's like Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk. As for the small cities of Russia, we also call it Malые города. It's the cities where you can find less than 50,000 people. For example, you have Torzhok, Uglich, and Borovichi. You can find how many people live there. When we talk about like a typical small Russian town, you will definitely find there few things. First of all, you will find a river. This is the base of a typical Russian view. The river, the church, of course, the place where you can walk next to the river, and also you will find the local historical museum, the theater, and the square. A typical big city in Russia, it's like a big city with a square, with the museums, with the theaters, with the restaurants, with the places to go. But it's not only about the center. We also can say that every city has the sleeping area. Sleeping area is the part of the city where you can find like new houses, new apartments. And usually most of the Russian people live in these apartments. A normal Russian apartment consists of course, kitchen. You can see the photo of kitchen. Like also like bathroom, toilet, and 1, 2, 3 normal rooms. Of course, to live in the sleeping area is not much fun. Like the main life, the main like interesting activities you can find in the center, but also in the sleeping area you can find a lot of things to make your comfortable life. For example, there are some like shops, doctors, like hospitals, sport fitness clubs, libraries, beauty salons, and so on. It's really easy to go from one place to another in the city. You can use a different transport, and for students and for pupils we have a system of discount. Also for like retired people who are already old and they get the pension, so they have some discount for the transport. That's why you can easily live without any car in the Russian city. Now, also a lot of people use taxi because thanks to their applications, for example, Yandex Taxi, it's really easy and now also very cheap to go somewhere by taxi. And even students can sometimes use Yandex Taxi. I know that in Zambia, you can also find Yandex Taxi. And of course, we need to say a few words about the metro. Metro is one of the most popular ways to travel in the big city. As for the markets and shops, we need to say that shops are opened every day. And usually they work without a break from 8 in the morning till 11 in the evening. So really, really long time you can go to the shop. But sometimes even 24 hours. So you can go to the shop anytime you want. If you want to have breakfast, to have dinner, or to have lunch, you can go to, for example, cafeteria, restaurant, or a cafe. Like restaurants and cafe, you can find, of course, expensive one, but you can also find the cheap one. The cafeteria usually not very expensive. They are opened in the morning and they are closed in the evening. You can have lunch in any time of the day. And in any time of the day, you can find soup, you know, famous Russian, for example, borscht. And also you can find anytime meat. And also I need to say that in Russia, people love to drink chai, that means tea. And we drink it many times a day, like many times a day. And even it is more popular than coffee. Also, you can order chai tea everywhere and anytime, any place, you can definitely get your tea. And the last thing that we need to say is that around 26% of Russians live in the village, not in the big cities. And here you can see some typical views of the Russian village. So, thank you so much for your attention. Hope that I will give you some knowledge about how Russian life looks like, and you definitely will travel to Russia. And yes, next time we are going to talk about Russian winter. And during all our course, you will find a lot of interesting things about Russian culture, Russian life. We will talk about Russian food, Russian cuisine. I think you will really, really appreciate this.